Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to cross the Øresund once again, and we're going to go back to Copenhagen in Denmark and revisit one of my favourite Danish breweries. And these guys were one that I discovered way back in 2015 when I first moved over to Sweden, and they became a firm favourite after a couple of beers. But if memory serves me correctly, this is going to be the first Christmas seasonal beer that I have a look at from these guys. So very curious to see how it turns out, and I do need to try and review a couple of the others this year as well, I think. So for this review then, we are going to go to Amager Bryghus once again, and this must be review number 20 or so that I've done from these guys, but this time we're having a taste of the Yule juice, which comes in at 6.5% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy IPA, or a hazy winter IPA, as the guys at Amager are describing this one. So really curious to see how this beer turns out. This one I'm reviewing for you in towards the end of October when the beer was just released, but I probably will publish this a little bit later on in December actually. I'm sure they'll do a few batches of this beer and release it actually, so we'll release this a little bit later on I would think. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. I saw this beer posted on their Facebook page and I thought, you know, I really just want to have a little go at this one. And when I was over in Copenhagen I saw it and I thought, well, why not? Let's have a taste of this. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out, and hopefully you guys enjoy my take on this one too. It's always nice to review some different beers from Amager Bryghus. The last time I had a New England IPA from these guys, it was the Walter the Baby Bat, which was brewed as a celebration of their artist's firstborn son, which was really cool. And I think before that, I had a couple of New England IPAs, but the one that always sticks in mind for me was the Bastard Princess, which was the very first New England hazy IPA that they released. I think that was a very nice one actually. Sigtebrod is always a really nice one as well, so check out those two if you get the chance. I don't know if they will do Walter the Baby Bat again, but that was a very nice example of the style. But yeah, a very good brewery in my opinion. One of the beers that you really have to try from these guys if you come across it would be the Herr Fredriksen Imperial Stout. That's one of the kind of pinnacle Danish Imperial Stouts in my mind, so I would highly recommend that you check that one out. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out, like I said, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So let's see how we get on. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Amager Bryghus before, and no doubt you will see more added to that in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you, and that's being added to very regularly because I am very close to Denmark and I love the Danish beers. There's a great standard of stuff over there these days, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Amager Bryghus then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've told you before, Amager Bryghus are based in the Amager Kastrup area in southern Copenhagen, and these guys are probably one of the best known Danish craft breweries these days. I think they are one of the biggest exporting Danish craft breweries, of course, because you know Toil and Mikkeller, Toil have just started making their beers in Denmark, of course, but Mikkeller for a long time made their beers in Norway and Belgium and then actually imported them into Denmark. So outside of the big gypsy breweries, Amager Bryghus are probably one of the best known Danish craft breweries. That's definitely a fair statement to make. But the brewery is also one of the more established ones as well. They were founded back in April of 2007 by two friends, Morten Valentin Lundsbach and Jakob Storm, both of whom were avid home brewers, and apparently in school the two were forced to do a chemistry and physics project together. So they wrote about the fermentation process that went on in beers. That got them hooked on the idea of home brewing, and then they both went on to gain their brewing diplomas from the Scandinavian Brewing School in 2008, and the company has gone on to become highly decorated since then as well. They're one of the most recognised Danish breweries these days as well. But their first brewery that they had was located in Tornbu in the southern part of Copenhagen, and they've been constantly expanding over the last few years. They had to buy a whole new brew kit in 2011, which took their capacity up to around 250,000 litres of beer, but they managed to get the capacity in their first brewery up to around 400,000 litres, which is pretty damn impressive when you saw the size of this place. But they moved to a new site closer to the airport in 2018, which doubled their capacity to around 800,000 litres, and they opened up their tap house bar in Copenhagen next to Nørreport station in March of 2019, and then they added another Amager bar in Amager, which is called Bryggen, and that is their kind of second tap room, if you like. That one was just a good opportunity that came to them, apparently, so they decided to take it and have a bar a bit closer to the brewery. And I do still need to go and check that one out, actually. It'd be nice to film an out and about video there and at the other bar in Nørreport. But as of October 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 275 different kinds of beer, and it was this year, 2020, that they started releasing their beers in 330ml cans. When I first encountered Amager Bryghus, they were selling their beers in half-litre bottles, which was great, but then they put them down to the 330ml bottles, which I was a bit disappointed about, but I could understand why they did it, because they wanted to have more beer to export more widely, and it did take the price of the beer down as well, because for other countries, buying Danish beer is quite expensive because of the currency strength, the labour costs, and all the import stuff that goes on top of that. But I think the 440ml cans that they're using now is a good compromise. I do think the cans is definitely the way forward for these guys for these guys in the future. But yeah, a very, very good brewery in my experience. I've had some really, really good beers from these guys over the years. One of the best West Coast IPAs I've ever had, the Batch 1000, came out of these guys. Winter in Bangalore is an IPA that always sticks in mind as well. I really do like that one. I'm not sure if they will ever re-release that, but the Herr Fredriksen Imperial Stout is one of the pinnacle Danish Imperial Stouts for me, and yeah, I've had lots of different styles from them as well. I had the Red Cap Scotch Ale, which was great. I do have the Damascus Steel barley wine, which I'm really looking forward to. You will see that reviewed at some point fairly soon. And I also had the Murp Hill, which was a double mash Imperial Stout. That was very, very good as well. But yeah, a very, very good all-round brewery, these guys, in my opinion, and one that you definitely need to check out if you're interested in Danish craft beer. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Amager Bryghus for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. Like I said, in the future I will add out and about videos at the Nørreport taproom and the Amager taproom as well. And maybe we can get these guys on and do a little bit of a meet the brewery kind of thing at some point as well. I would love to do that with these guys as my first Danish meet the brewery, actually, because these guys, as I say, are a firm favourite of mine. But there's lots of very good breweries over in Denmark these days. In Copenhagen alone you have Amager, you've got Slow Burn, Kaleidoscope now, Braw Beer, Gamma, Ulsned, Karin, Dry and Bitter, Flying Couch, and Mikkeller and Toil, of course, have a very high presence as well. So there's lots of very, very good beer in Copenhagen these days. As I've told you before, it's one of the best craft beer cities in the world, in my experience, but in my opinion as well, I should say. But yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So as you can maybe gather from the artwork on this one, this is going to be a very orangey leaning IPA. The artwork is lovely. You can see Santa's obviously been out working and he's a little bit horny, so he wants to have a bit of a shag now that he's relaxing, so always quite good. I do love the artwork you get on these Amager Bryghus beers. But yeah, it says on the side here, you always get a nice blurb kind of thing with the Amager Bryghus beers, so let's just go through this as we always do. Bit of a tradition with these Amager beers, but it says, it's one of those mysteries that have kept people wondering for years and years. Where does Santa go for those 11 months of the year when he's not busy with his sleigh delivering parcels? Well, the childish lot would claim that he lives in the North Pole, but seriously? Who in their right mind would spend 11 months of the year on a melting and drifting ice floe? The answer, and this may deprive many of their illusions, is that Santa lives in Tulare County, California. Yes, you heard it here first. Tular has oranges and nice weather, and Santa and Mama Santa are business folks and run an orange plantation. Actually, oranges are so plentiful that the rivers and the waterfalls and the lakes are overflowing with orange juice, and who wouldn't like to swim and relax and live here 11 months a year? No, Santa didn't exactly invent orange juice, but it was actually Santa who invented juicy IPAs. Yep, on a trip to San Diego some years ago, he had a pint of delicious West Coast IPA, and suddenly it dawned upon him, what if I combined this lovely beverage with the delicious orange juice from back home in Tular? A few days of mixing and experimenting back in the Santa lab, and the juicy IPA was born. Invented by Santa as the perfect Christmas drink, of course some East Coast folks came out claiming that it all happened there, but they're just full of BS. So there you have it, people. 1 month a year Santa is a chubby dude with a fake beard pretending to be friend of all children, making odd grinning noises as he does his deliveries, but the rest of the year he is enjoying all the mega bucks that he makes on beer, juice and the two combined. Now you know to sit back and enjoy the Santa creation, no illusions, it's just beer. So yeah, this one I think looks pretty nice. But it says on the side here, this one is a Torhumlet Hazy IPA, a dry hopped hazy IPA. The malt base in this one is Pilsner and Carapils, and also malted oats and rolled oats, so should be quite interesting. And the hops in this are Columbus, which I'm guessing will be the bittering hop, lovely big spicy bitterness to that, and then Citra, which gives you a lot of nice juicy mangoey notes and some other complexities. Then we've got Amarillo, big oily oranges usually, and a bit of Mosaic, which is a nice lighter kind of tangerine note out of it. And we've got a London fog yeast in this one, which should be pretty cool. But it says Brygget og tappet på Ammerbryghus.dk. So yeah, this one really nicely presented, as you can see, quite shiny. The camera usually hates the shiny cans, but the artwork on this is absolutely lovely. Black topped can, and this one is a 440ml can incidentally. I think I must have paid about 50 Danish kroners for this, so that translates to about 65, maybe 70 Swedish. So the bottle shop beers in Denmark are a little bit more expensive than Sweden, but that'll translate to maybe about €7 for the maybe about €7 or so for the can, and it'll be about £5.50, something like that. But yeah, I do like this one. I do like the Speedy Xmas thing there as well. Actually, the artwork, as I say on this, is pretty nice. I forget the artist's name. Usually it has it there. Ah, here it is. Yeah, so it says designed by Simon Hartvig Daugard. So yeah, really nice artwork that you always get on these Amager Bryghus beers. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I'm expecting a really nice, big, orangey leaning New England IPA. And if you've watched the channel before, you will know that I'm an absolute sucker for the orangey leaning beers. And you can really smell the mosaic coming out of this one as soon as you open the beer up. I'll say that straight away. But let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the taste, and I'm very curious about this. As I say, I've had some very, very good IPAs from Amager Bryghus over the years. Batch 1000 I think is the standout still. Bastard Princess was really nice, New England IPA. Arctic Sunstone, I think that was a pale ale though, if I remember rightly, but that was a beautifully done beer. And also Winter in Bangalore was very, very nice as well. I still need to review Todd the Axeman for you at some point. That's one. Pardon me, that's one that I really do need to have a look at on the channel at some point soon, because that's one of their kind of regular beers. So I'll see about getting a can of that the next time I go across to Copenhagen, but usually I pick up the new ones that Amager have just released. But yeah, I have to say, this beer looks very, very nice. That's one of the most soupy and gloopy looking New England IPAs that I've come across. It's 6.5%, that's mental, I have to say. But yeah, as you can see with this one's poured a lovely kind of almost peach juicy type colour, almost like kind of pineapple juice, peach pineapple juice kind of thing. We always use the fruit juices as a reference for these New England IPAs and talking about the colours. But yeah, you can see that this beer poured with about somewhere between a quarter and a third of a finger of a frothy, perfect white head. I would say that's faded away to just be a very, very thin foamy layer, and it's left a nice ring just around the edge of the glass there. But one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but overall it does look pretty damn nice, I have to say. So yeah, thumbs up to Amager Bryghus for the appearance of this beer. It certainly does look the part, and you can see if I put my fingers behind the glass here, this one is pretty damn hazy. One of the haziest 6.5%ers I think I've come across in a little while. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. Let's have a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on. Ooh, that does smell very nice. That really does smell great. So yeah, straight away with this beer you're going to get big juicy oranges, and you're going to get that lovely big oaty creamy base. In terms of the aroma, this one really reminds me of some of the treehouse ones that I've had. As I've told you with the American breweries, the quite well-known American breweries, the Trilliums for me are a little bit more wheaty and bitey. The treehouses are a bit more kind of oaty and creamy. And then you have the Alchemist ones, sorry, brain's not working today, the Alchemist ones that are a little bit more farmhousey. You've also got Lawson's Finest Liquids, which is, they've got a really kind of interesting West Coast, New England type hybrid thing going on, and I do need to try some of the Hill Farmstead stuff at some stage as well. That's another brewery that I need to get a few things from, but yeah, this one comes across as really nice and smooth and creamy actually. But yeah, it smells absolutely lovely. Like I said, it was malted oats and rolled oats that were in this. So yeah, no wonder the oats are coming out really a lot in this beer. But yeah, big kind of creamy oaty malt base in this one. It does actually smell as if it has a little bit of wheat in it, because when you take in the aroma really deeply, you do get a little bit of that kind of almost wheaty bitiness out of it. So yeah, kind of white bready base for me. Definitely a little bit of a white bready base for me, but the oats are quite present in this one. You can definitely get a little bit of that crispness from the Pilsner malt in this. Pilsner malt, as I've told you before, is a pain in the ass to try and it's a pain in the arse to try and describe that for you, because it's really you just smell the crispness off it, and you smell you know, it's a big kind of mouthfeel thing actually. So yeah, you really can smell a bit of that Pilsner malt in here, and you also get a little bit of the sweetness from the carapils as well. This beer almost has a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy type thing to it. I don't get the straight up caramel out of this, but you can smell a little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity thing, and that'll be the carapils that's giving you that. So malt base for me, nice little bit of white bread to it, almost a little touch of a wheaty bitiness, even though it doesn't have wheat in it, but you get a lovely kind of smooth oaty thing out of this one. You get a nice little bit of a kind of butter candy type note, and also a wee bit of a kind of biscuity note from the carapils as well, that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing, which is really good. So yeah, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of that malt base, because it really does stand out to me. I think this is one of the creamiest malt bases I've come across from Amager Bryghus so far actually, but it's very, very nice, and it suits the orangey side of the beer very well. So on the green side of the hops then, there is a nice little touch of earthiness to this one. That's the Mosaic, but that's quite minimal. The green side of the hops for me really leans towards a kind of floral aromatic thing, and again, if you take the aroma in quite deeply with this one, that's when you notice, you know, that's when you really get more of the big kind of floral aromatic note. But if you just kind of smell it passively, that's when you get more of the grassiness out of the beer for me. And the grassiness, to be honest, it suits the kind of creaminess. This beer comes across as almost very relaxed in its aroma, rather than being really kind of big and punchy and pungent. But it certainly suits. It certainly does suit the kind of overall nature of the beer, if you like. The grassiness that the beer has when you're just smelling it a little bit more passively. But the more you sugar that up, the more the big creamy oats you get out of it as well. This is a really interesting beer, I think, from an aroma perspective. I don't think I've had one that's been quite as creamy as this in quite a wee while. But on the fruity side of things then, again, it's kind of what you would expect if you know the hops in this beer. When you take it in a bit more deeply, you will get a little touch of the spicy aromaticity from the Columbus. But this beer, I can tell straight away from the aroma, this isn't going to be a big bitterness beer. No way. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, you do get a lot of soft tropical fruit out of this one. You get the mangoes that you'd expect from the Citra, but for me, there's definitely a bit more of a kind of apricot-y and almost papaya type softness than there. If I was blind smelling that, I might actually guess that it would be Idaho 7 that's in here, because of how soft the tropical fruits are. The other one I might think it would be Simcoe, just because that the kind of passion, you get a little bit of that passion fruit out of it as well, but it comes across as really kind of smooth, and Simcoe is very good for giving you that in the New England IPAs. So yeah, I think I would probably guess that this one was Idaho 7 or Simcoe. You know, the other option would be Victoria's Secret, but the other two would spring to mind first, I would reckon. So yeah, lovely soft tropical fruit note to this. You do get a wee tiny touch of the stronger passion fruit, but mainly a mango and a soft kind of apricot and papaya type quality out of the beer. But you also get a nice little bit of a citrusy quality in this one too. So for me, nice big kind of oily orangey character. That's the Amarillo straight away. Amarillo was always one of my favourite hops back in the day. it's kind of been forgotten in favour of Mosaic, because Mosaic's just got a little bit more complexity to it. But Amarillo was always a very straight up, big oily orange, and you get that straight away with this one. But a little bit further forward on the nose, you do get that lighter tangerine juiciness from the Mosaic. But yeah, the aroma out of this one, I think, is really, really very nice. Yeah, that juicy kind of note that you get in there is really, really good. I had wondered actually if there was a little bit of Centennial in this, because it does almost just have a little bit of zestiness on the kind of front of the palate. I did wonder that about this beer. But apparently it is just checked again and it doesn't, because there is a wee touch of a lemony note, just a little bit of that lemony zestiness on the very front of the nose actually. So yeah, the aroma of this beer, I think, is the aroma of this beer is very, very nice actually. It's got the orangey notes, and for me, as I said earlier, I'm a big sucker for these big orangey leaning IPAs, both West Coast and New England. But yeah, lovely aroma this one, so take a bit of time and just enjoy that before you get stuck in. And I'm really curious to try my first Christmas beer from these guys. I need to review the Reindeer Fuel and the Yule at some point as well. But let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. So this one is the Yule Juice, a 6.5% New England hazy IPA from Amager Bryghus in Amager in the south of Copenhagen in Denmark. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, and I hope you guys have a nice festive month. Maybe we'll publish this on the 1st of December. Skål. Oh yeah, that's a really nice beer actually. It's one of the more oily New England IPAs I've come across, and I didn't expect that from it. It's got a nice creamy base to it, and the creaminess I think comes out later, but initially this beer for me is very, very oily actually. I really like how all of that goes together, but this is an absolutely solid beer from Amager Bryghus. And these guys, as I've told you, they're very, very capable. In my mind, they're doing some really, really nice stuff. And this one is no exception to that rule. This is a lovely beer. So thumbs up to Amager Bryghus once again. Yeah, I like this. It is almost a little bit like a kind of New England IPA version of Arctic Sunstone, if you like. Because that one was more of a West Coasty beer. But I really enjoyed that. Yeah, the Arctic Sunstone was a great beer. But yeah, I certainly like this one. So yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this one then and see how we go. So straight away with this beer, you can feel a little bit of that almost kind of crisp bready quality, that blankets the middle of your tongue. But on top of that, that's, you know, it soon gives way to that big kind of smooth oatiness that you would expect going from the malt bill in this one, the rolled oats and the malted oats. So yeah, it's a big oily, well not oily, it's a big creamy thing. You do get that kind of crisp, pale, almost pale malty quality just sitting underneath that one. But it would be Pilsner malt, that's maybe why it's giving you a kind of crispness rather than the pale malt. But yeah, you do get that kind of more crisp, white bready quality just forming the backbone of the beer, but then you get this big almost, I don't want to say sludgy because it sounds like quite a negative word, but on top of that, you do get this big kind of, it's almost like a kind of yogurty consistency type thing. You do get that big oil, that big almost creamy, sludgy, yogurty type oaty thing that just sits on top of the palate, on top of that kind of more crisp malt, and you can feel in the back third of the tongue that the beer just thickens up a little bit. And yeah, you do get a little touch of bitiness at the very back of the palate there, and it's almost like there is a little bit of wheat in the beer, but as I said, there isn't. You do just get a little bit of bitiness out of the beer at the back, but as you move further forward you can feel that thickness kind of stays there. Then as you go into the middle third of your palate, it just goes down a little bit, the thickness of the beer just goes down a little bit. Then as you move further forward into that middle third of your palate, you can feel a little bit of the kind of sweetness sitting there on top. I think the malt base for me strikes me as quite straightforward, as quite simple compared to some of the other ones that I've had from Amager in the past, but it does work. It really, really works for the rest of the beer actually. So yeah, as I say, it's kind of, you know, crisp white bread and then oats sitting on top, and in the middle third of your palate, in the back third of your palate, it's a little bit thicker, a little bit bitey at the very back, but then in the middle third of your palate you can feel the thickness just goes down, and on top of that you get a slightly oily kind of bubble sitting there on top of it, on almost a slightly oily layer, and that's where some of the kind of sweetness is coming out from, the carapils in this beer. So yeah, in the middle of the palate you do get a little bit of a straight up kind of caramelly brown sugar, but as the flavour kind of develops and you go further into the aftertaste, I think it does start to become a little bit more like a Werther's Original butter candy type thing. But in fairness, as you move further out towards the extremities of your palate, you do get a little bit more of a kind of biscuity, a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity kind of thing out of this, which is quite interesting. I do appreciate that about this beer, but like I say, the main component of the malt here is oats. So a little bit of that kind of crisper note there. You can feel the Pilsner malt forming the backbone of the beer, but it comes across as a little bit more bready, almost like pale malt, than the big oaty thickness sitting on top of it. A bit thicker on the back third of the palate, and a little bit, not quite as thick, a little bit thinner and sweeter on the middle third of your tongue. But the malt base really works for everything else that's going on in this beer. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there is a little touch of earthiness to the beer. That would be the mosaic, I think, that's giving you that. But as you move further forward along the side of the palate, you do get a nice kind of, pardon me, get a bit of gas. But yeah, you do get a little bit of a kind of floral aromatic note coming out of this one. It's not quite as spicy as you'd normally expect of Columbus, and I have to say, I do actually find Columbus quite difficult to detect in New England IPAs sometimes, especially when they're very soft and juicy like this. Columbus, I think, is a hop that really works very well. It works very well as a bittering hop generally, but I think it works. It's at its best when it's in a West Coast IPA and a high bitterness West Coast IPA. But yeah, you do get the floral side of this beer really comes across as more aromatic rather than spicy, and on the front curve of the palate you've got a nice little bit of a lighter kind of grassy thing from this one as well. So that the green side of the hops for me comes across as quite soft in this. This is quite a low bitterness beer, but we'll come back to that when we talk about the mouthfeel. But yeah, it's very nice. So yeah, it's the fruity side of this one I think is really nice as well. But yeah, it's got a really nice kind of softness. This beer generally, it's a really smooth and easy drinking thing. I would say in fairness that the aromaticity and the sort of potency of the hops does grow a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste. But let's focus on the fruity side of it then. Front third of the palate, as I've always said to you, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. If you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, that's when you get some of the slightly more pungent notes of the citra. You do get a little touch of passion fruit out of this one, but then it very quickly becomes a more kind of juicy mango, and then further forward you get a little bit of that apricot-y papaya type thing that you often get from citra. And then on the front half of the tongue, the front half of that front third of your tongue, front sixth if we want to be pernickety of the whole palate, you do get that big oily orangey character that you can detect in the aroma, and that does actually start, you can feel it when it takes a little bit of time. When you take the beer in, it is a bit more soft and tropically, and then as you move further into the flavour and let it develop, the beer just gradually gets a little bit more, the fruity side just gets more oily, and you can feel that big oily Amarillo base coming out of the beer, that big oily juicy orange, and then you start to get the kind of slightly brighter tangerines coming out of it. So yeah, the oranges for me, they do start to dominate the flavour, and you can just feel the oily Amarillo just creeping back a little bit over the kind of lighter citra on that front third of your tongue as well. So it's really interesting how the flavour develops in this one. This is a beer that is, in some ways it's very straightforward, but it does make me think a little bit, and I really like that about it. I like these orangey leaning IPAs, so do take my review with a bit of a pinch of salt in that sense. I kind of knew that I would like this one if it had Amarillo and Mosaic in it. I knew that, but I think it is very, very well crafted, to be honest with you. And I'm not surprised, you know, Amager Bryghus, I've had really good experiences with these guys in the past, so for them to pull off a beer like this, it's not a surprise, but I really do like this one. Bit of a shame that it's a seasonal, to be honest, but I would say if you were a fan of the Arctic Sunstone, then this is almost kind of the same vibe, but just a New England, a sort of New England take on the Arctic Sunstone. So yeah, definitely worth checking out if you were a fan of that beer. And if you like an orangey IPA like me, you will enjoy this one too. And if you like a big creamy sort of treehousey type New England IPA, that's another tick in the box there. But yeah, solid beer in my mind. So yeah, let's have a little look at the mouthfeel of this one then. I think we've covered the flavour profile of this one quite well actually. So yeah, the fruity side of the beer, again, it's lovely. It's a big oily kind of thing, and I would say overall the mouthfeel of this beer, I would describe this one as kind of bottom end full bodied for me. It is, in fairness, it might even be kind of in the middle of the full bodied quality. I would say it's full bodied overall because it's quite a thick, big, creamy beer, this one, but it does have a bit of an oily character as well, which only makes it feel thicker. So yeah, I would say kind of, yeah, full-bodied beer, this one. Carbonation's very smooth. It's a big, creamy mouthfeel, but I think it does get a little bit more oily the further you go into the aftertaste. It's a low bitterness beer for me. I think this is your standard kind of 30 IBUs, maybe 35, something like that. You do feel the aromaticity building out of this one a little bit more the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, the malt base, like I said, it's got a little bit of a crisp white bready thing underneath, some big kind of creamy oaty characters to it, which is nice. The creaminess really starts to dominate the malt base a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste. A little touch of sweetness, some big oily fruitiness out of this. I think the oily orange starts to dominate the flavour later on, but you still have a little bit of that juicy tropical fruit in there, and then the green side of the hops for me is quite aromatic, and that just builds the further you go into the aftertaste. But the grassiness also has just a wee touch of zestiness, adds a little bit of zestiness to the beer, I should say, the further you go into it as well. So for me, quite a full-bodied New England IPA, very smooth, starts to lean to a little bit more towards the oily side of things, but a really nice example of the style for me, and I would recommend that you try this if you get the chance. I do wonder if we'll get this one in December in Sweden actually. I wouldn't be surprised, but this is a very, very nice beer, and I highly recommend that you check it out if you get the chance. But yeah, really glad I was able to get a hold of this one. This is the first Christmas beer that I've reviewed from Amager Bryghus, so I think I do need to try and review the reindeer fuel for you. I'm pretty sure I haven't done that already, and the Yule, the kind of more classic, one of the ones from the more classic range at Amager Bryghus. I do need to check that out as well. But yeah, that's all we can really say about this one for just now. I hope that you guys enjoyed another Amager Bryghus review. I always enjoy reviewing the beers from these guys because there's a lot to think about. But yeah, hopefully this was a good review, and it certainly suited my palate. So have a go at this beer for yourself and see how you get on. But yeah, thank you again for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Amager Bryghus as well. You will see more reviews from these guys in the near future because they are one of my favourite Danish breweries. But do check them out if you haven't already. The Batch 1000, the Herr Fredriksson, those are probably the two best beers that I've had from these guys, but they are producing some very nice New England IPAs these days as well. But yeah, have a go at some of the beers that these guys are doing. But yeah, until the next time, it's Slange just now. Thank you for watching. Check out my social media, have a go at the Yule juice, and I hope you guys have a safe and happy December 2020. We'll use this review to kick off, we'll use this review to publish on the 1st of December. But thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. The Yule juice from Amager Bryghus, a 6.5% New England IPA, a big orangey leaning one from Amager Bryghus in Kastrup in Copenhagen in Denmark. Slange, skål, cheers, catch you guys very soon.